Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Devious Dr. Jekyll by Viola Carr. Narrated by Beverley A. Crick. A stain of breath. Where's the body? Eliza Jekyll skidded eagerly into the frame-maker's shop, clutching her doctor's bag, and rocked back in dismay. Not a corpse in sight. The shop had been ransacked. Blue-coated police constables milled about, clambered over scattered oil paintings and frame parts. Arc-lit chandeliers crackled, shedding the stormy scent of ether, and through the windows glared a sullen, fog-bound yellow sun. Inspector Harley Griffin of the Metropolitan Police, immaculate suit, sharply combed dark hair, waved her over.
"What do you make of this, Doctor?"
Eliza pushed up her spectacles, frustrated. "It's a pile of paintings, Harley, not a cadaver. Surely you need no crime scene physician to avail you of that."
"Ah,"
said Griffin imperturbably.
"But it's the art you don't see that we're interested in."
State-of-the-art police work, I'm sure. Eliza sidestepped a constable who promptly tripped over a rug in the crush and blundered into the scattered artworks, likely obliterating any trace evidence. A dozen murders a night, the city bursting with bloodthirsty French spies, and our good chief inspector has the finest detective in London investigating a petty theft. Hippocrates, her clockwork assistant, jigged on hinged brass legs at her skirt hem. "Human remains absent," he proclaimed in his tinny little voice. "Does not compute." Griffin tugged neat moustaches.
"To be fair, the scenario does exercise the mind. The villain filched 21 artworks on Saturday night."
She snorted. "And now it's Monday. The evidence venerable as well as trampled. An even more irritating waste of my time."
"From under the noses of 4 security guards," continued Griffin with a knowing smile. "Law-abiding citizens all, naturally. No one saw or heard a thing. No alarm raised. Locks intact. Every key accounted for."
"A locked-room art heist," she muttered, intrigued despite herself. "Impressive. What does Reeve want me to do about it? Test for incompetence?"
"Don't get smart with me, missy."
Chief Inspector Reeve, newly appointed to that lofty rank, waddled up in an ugly brown suit, puffing self-importantly on a cigar.
"You're late. Getting your hair done?"
"My apologies, sir. Looking so pretty takes such a long time." Her sarcasm struck Reeve's glaring aura of chauvinistic pig and bounced off.
"Quite right, too. Put some colour in your cheeks. All that unladylike science makes you peaky."
Behind Reeve, Griffin rolled his eyes. Eliza barely noticed, possessed of a creeping all-too-familiar itch to claw Reeve's skin off. But it wasn't her craving. It belonged to Lizzie Hyde, the shadowy second self inside her, thrashing to break free.
"I'll make you peaky, you sniggering prat."
Lizzie's disembodied urgings seared Eliza's flesh. Suddenly her plain grey dress itched like fire ants. Her hair rippled, alive, trying to spring free of its coil, and Lizzie wriggled and swelled beneath her skin, threatening to burst out. "Eh?" Eliza blinked, heart thudding. Suddenly all was still. Her vision bounced back into focus. The cramped shop, the fat frame-maker hovering in one corner, the scattered paintings. "What did you say?" Reeve puffed cigar smoke, rocking on smug heels.
"I said police work isn't all murders and mayhem. You're always complaining no one but young Griffin here takes you seriously. Well, here's a case. Do you want it or not?"
Eliza swallowed, Lizzie's compulsion to slam Reeve's nose into his brain. She needed this job. When she and Harley caught the gruesome killer known as the Chopper, she'd imagined her career as a physician would at last take off. But Harley was still her only friend on the force. Police work, especially the newfangled crime scene medicine, was still a man's world, and even more so when said crime scene was owned by a thoughtless donkey like Reeve. Her employment at Bethlehem Asylum had dried up too. She wasn't exactly popular there. Understandably, given that the surgeon in charge who'd employed her had been killed, and the chopper had turned out to be an asylum orderly and one of her closest friends. Not to mention the trifling matter of Razor Jack, a lunatic killer who'd taken advantage of the mayhem to escape. In short, she needed all the work she could get, even petty larcenies, instead of cases that mattered. I merely remark that my expertise is hardly burglary beneath your attention, is it? Couldn't care about some louse-ridden criminal type wiping his greasy fingers all over Her Majesty's new portrait? Oh, her curiosity piqued. No one had seen the Mad Queen in public for years. People whispered that she'd died of cholera, been starved by her wicked advisers, or had been bewitched by sorceress spies for the terrifying new French Republic. New, did you say? Griffin consulted his notebook. Apparently, painted by a court artist, name of Win Patton. Never heard of him. But it explained Reeve's attendance, ingratiating himself with the palace and the police commissioner. Not the kind of thing a villain can sell, is it? Reeve stuck a belligerent thumb into his braces. Ergo, not a simple theft. Her Majesty could have a crazed admirer. It could be froggy agents stirring up trouble. But you've better things to do, have you? Aye, whispered Lizzie. Come closer and I'll show you. Not at all. Eliza smiled through clenched teeth. Pleased to assist. Reeve grinned. Not so smart as you think you are. Lads, make way for the good lady doctor. Thwack him. Lizzie slithered up into Eliza's throat like a serpent, making her splutter for air. Tell the woman-hating little bastard to go screw himself. Better still, I'll tell him to go screw himself. Just let me at him. Hippocrates snuffled disconsolately at the floor. Remains, samples, does not compute. Hip, take a recording, please. Eliza yanked on a pair of white cotton gloves. Wooden frame on trestle legs, about 7 feet by 3. The Queen's canvas was tensioned here with these pegs. Reeve sniggered. Never would have figured that for myself. Eliza shot him an oily glare. So you've solved the case already, then? No? Whatever will the Commissioner say? Do you want my help, or shall I return to my embroidery? Embroidery, chirped Hip, muffled beneath her skirts. Irrelevant. Logic failure. Shall I return to my embroidery? Lizzie mocked. Shall I break your pox-ridden nose with my forehead? Shall I grab you tiny balls and squeeze until your face turns black? Carry on if you must, muttered Reeve. I've witnesses to examine. And he strutted away. Eliza's fingers flexed of their own accord, and she shuddered in cold sweat. Her skin felt stretched too thin, like overstressed rubber. The urge, no, the need to carry out Lizzie's creative revenge burned all too fresh and real. Panic blinded her momentarily. The metamorphosis wasn't meant to happen on its own, without her elixir to control it. If she changed... Wouldn't be the nicest pair of trousers we've ever shoved our hand down, agreed Lizzie, silkily. Not that you're any help in that department. Shut up, hissed Eliza frantically, fiddling with the empty pegs. I'm trying to work. Fine, you work away. I'll just sit over here and think of fun ways to rip his nuts off. If it makes you happy, just do it quietly. You're embarrassing me. Doctor, are you quite well? Griffin eyed her strangely. Eliza flushed, talking to herself again. It's nothing. Shall we get on? She uncased her brass-framed optical and strapped it to her forehead. She'd built the gadget herself, modified from her late father's designs. The array of lenses and spectrix detected all manner of substances, from bloodstains to stupefying drugs and poisons. Not strictly classical optics. Such unorthodox contraptions could get you dragged from your bed in the dead of night to answer uncivil questions in electrified dungeons at the Tower. But none of Henry Jekyll's dabblings had been suitable subjects for tea-party conversation. As a girl, she'd been fascinated by her father's dusty laboratory, the bold young men in shirt-sleeves with their illicit experiments on light, air, the substance of life itself, not to mention outlawed elixirs and the search for eternity. She slotted a magnifier over her spectacles and examined the wooden frame. Nothing's damaged, no oil flakes. This art was not snatched. Our thief took his time, confident he'd remain undisturbed. And, hold on, I see a handprint on the adjoining wallpaper. Griffin coughed.
"Pity this isn't the Paris Sûreté," he murmured. "I hear they're collecting copies of convicted felons' handprints for comparison."
"Along with their severed heads? Away with your treasonous Republican sympathies, Inspector." She peered closer. Coal dust, or iron. Smallish hands, perhaps a youngster. Surreptitiously she flipped in an experimental lens she'd borrowed from her pharmacist. Multi-dimensional resonance, Mr. Finch had claimed. Highly unorthodox, when the philosopher's doctrine allowed for 4 dimensions and no more. The stuff of torture and witch-burnings. The smudged handprint glittered in her lens, greenish-yellow. "I say, how extraordinary."
"You're extraordinary,"
a whisper sparkling in her ear. Startled, she teetered. Big hands caught her waist, a familiar gun-flash scent of steel and thunder. Hippocrates danced a clumsy jig. Griffin winced. Inwardly, Eliza groaned. "Oh, bother." "I lied," whispered Lizzie with a grin. "Ain't leaving this alone." A face in the mirror. Eliza stepped away, casually slipping that incriminating optical from her forehead. "Good morning, Captain Lafayette. I note your manners haven't improved."
"My manners shall never improve, Dr. Jekyll. You may rest assured."
Remy Lafayette made a flashy bow. Gold braid glittered on his scarlet cavalry officer's tailcoat, with arc pistol, sword and spurs all fighting to outdo each other for shine. A decorative fellow, no mistake. Lush chestnut curls, brilliant electric blue eyes fit to melt an iceberg or a lesser woman's heart, until, of course, one noticed the iron badge on his lapel, engraved with the words nullius in verba. "Why, is there a new Royal Society moratorium on gentlemanly behaviour? Or, heaven forbid, is your incorrigible buffoonery unauthorised?"
"Admit it. It amuses you to scold me."
Lafayette bent to pet Hippocrates.
"If I failed to outrage, my entertainment value would swiftly degrade to negligible."
"And it has such a long way to go. Hip, come away." Harley Griffin nodded amiably.
"Lafayette, how we've missed you. Still inflicting yourself when you're not wanted?"
A jaunty tilt of sword.
"I'm a royal investigator, Griffin, old boy. Being unwanted is my job." "And you perform it peerlessly."
Lafayette laughed, and the fat frame-maker shuffled and averted his gaze. Even Reeves' constables edged away. A dangerous thing, this royal investigator's mirth. The all-powerful royal, under the dubiously enlightened guidance of their immortal philosopher, made the rules. Science or superstition, orthodoxy or a burning for heresy, who was to know from day to day? And lately the royal's efforts to weasel out scientific heretics had escalated from irritating and invasive to overzealous and violent. No one was safe, especially not Eliza Jekyll, alchemy addict, dabbler in dubious crime scene science, and afflicted with what her father's notebooks liked to call a transcendental identity. Inwardly she shuddered. Remy Lafayette, IRS, hid uncanny secrets of his own, cursed with a metamorphic monster more terrible than anything Henry Jekyll had envisaged. They'd reached an understanding while they'd worked to solve the chopper case, hadn't they? Nullius in verba, take nobody's word for it. An exhortation to see for yourself, to question blind assumptions. A rule she ought to keep in mind. She barely knew the man, after all. Any moment he could lose his nerve and betray her to save himself a burning.
"Bollocks," whispered Lizzie gaily. "Ain't the real reason you've got ants in your knickers, is it?"
Lafayette clapped a constable on the shoulder.
"Fantastic work, chaps. Keeping the streets safe, all that. I say, Griffin, do you mind if I borrow the good doctor a moment?"
"Oh dear," she said smoothly. "I'm afraid I'm urgently occupied. Perhaps next week."
"Be my guest, sir," interrupted Griffin with a wicked grin. "I'll muddle on without her."
And he wandered off, pretending not to see as she crossed exasperated eyes at him. She swallowed on Lizzie's jubilation. "What can I do for you, Captain?" Lafayette tucked his hands behind his back, a flip of scarlet coat-tail.
"I'd hoped to ask you the same. I can't help but observe you've been avoiding me."
She sidled around him, skirt squashing against the cluttered shop's wall. "Nonsense. Terribly busy, you know. Must go. Can't stand around all morning indulging in chit-chat." He jumped into her path.
"Up to your neck in it, are you?"
She sidestepped a pile of carved frame parts. "Didn't I tell you I've a new job at the parish workhouses?"
"I'm all admiration."
"How gratifying."
"But enabling society's exploitation of the poor, hardly up to your enlightened standards."
He blocked her way again, brandishing that disarming smile. In fact, she'd already been dismissed from the job for accusing parish officials of embezzling church funds. It was true, but that greedy beetle had fired her anyway. Despicable man, stealing food from impoverished mouths. Just the thought of him tickled an indignant itch up her arms. "I take what criminal cases I can, thank you." Lafayette glanced at the crime scene, faking a shudder.
"Villainy in the foulest. The Empire's fate surely rests upon solving this enormity."
Again she tried to slip by in the cramped space. "Scoff if you will, sir. Police work isn't all murders and mayhem. Now, if you'll excuse me—"
"What if I could get you a real case?"
She halted, pulse thudding. A knowing smile.
"Gruesome, suspicious, the threat of sinister enemies unknown. A perfect chance to test your skills. Did I win you over yet?"
"Whatever are you blathering about?"
"A society murder, of course. High-profile case. Get the jump on your charming constabulary colleagues. Naturally, you'll be paid for your expertise, if you're interested."
Lafayette let his gaze wander.
"Perhaps you aren't. Perhaps you enjoy being insulted by idiots and working misdemeanors for pocket change."
"Burglary's a felony," she corrected automatically. But temptation warred with caution in her mind. Never mind the payment, which she could surely use. To solve a big case, yet again prove herself worthy of a proper job.
"Not a very glamorous one. So, are you in? Or shall I call the next on my list of stunningly attractive medical geniuses?"
She snorted. "Is that what passes for charm at the Royal these days? Since when is homicide your purview?" A flippant shrug.
"It isn't, but from time to time, I can't imagine why, people like to whisper to me of certain peculiarities. And this case is very peculiar."
"Your spies, you mean, to save their own skins. Such public spirit."
"Call them what you please. I thought you might enjoy it, that's all. Told you I could use a crime scene physician, didn't I?"
He hesitated.
"Perchance you recall that conversation?"
She fidgeted.
"In your consulting room one evening 6 weeks ago, when I asked you to marry me, whereupon the conversation abruptly ended. Light suddenly glared into every crevice, leaving her nowhere to hide. The constables grew deeply entranced by their tasks. Even Griffin examined a pile of coiled wire with unwarranted intensity. Smiling blandly, she dragged Lafayette into a corner, beneath a pair of ugly spaniel portraits on the wall. "This is hardly the time nor place, sir," she hissed. "If you're hoping to embarrass me into an answer, it won't work." Lafayette winced and tugged his chestnut curls. A little too ragged for decency. A creature such as he needed frequent haircuts.
"I didn't mean it like that. If you want the case, it's yours, regardless."
An irrepressible glint of bright eyes. "But I note you haven't yet said no to either."
"Dare one hope?"
Reeve strutted up, brandishing his cigar stub.
"Are you two love bunnies quite finished?"
Eliza sprang a foot backwards, certain her face outreddened Lafayette's coat. "Chief Inspector, we were just—"
"Spare me the sordid particulars, missy. I pay you to work, not pursue your little affair d'amours."
"Piss off, you rude little rat!" yelled Lizzie in her ear. Eliza fought to keep still, nerves jangling. Lafayette bristled, stroking his sword hilt.
"Were your French not such a tragedy, sir, I should take you to task for that insulting plural."
Honestly, add gallant and idiotic to his list of maddening attributes. "Gentlemen, please, such primitive hostility." Reeve just grinned bullishly.
"Watch it, Captain. This isn't 1815, and you're not the Duke of bloody Wellington. I could arrest you, Royal Society or not. Duelling's a capital crime." "Only if I kill you," a chilly Lafayette smile. "Perhaps I'll just leave you to bleed." "With a dozen armed constables at my back? I don't think so." Reeve chewed his cigar. "Now, clear off. I don't remember inviting you to my crime scene."
Lafayette didn't budge.
"What a pity I don't need your invitation."
"Let Remy kill the little squeezer," hissed Lizzie. "Better still, let me tear the rude bastard's face off. Stuff that stinking cigar up his nose. Squeeze his scrawny neck until his eyeballs bleed." Sweating, Eliza laid a hand on Lafayette's arm. "Captain, be so good as to refrain from gutting our chief inspector, at least not this morning."
"If it please you, madam."
Lafayette's stare didn't defrost. A flat, disturbing, metallic shine. A wolfish shine. Oh dear, was it that time again? Shakily, Eliza faced Reeve, with Lizzie roiling and thrashing beneath her skin. "As for the crime scene, sir, no forced entry, and your witnesses claim they saw no one. Either they're lying and someone let the thief in which case I've no doubt a man of your impressive stature will beat the truth out of them directly." Finally Reeve scowled.
"Or?"
She smiled brightly. "Or they're telling the truth, and the burglar has covered his tracks with an unorthodox trick."
"Ha ha ha!"
Lizzie cackled. "Stick that in your cigar, wee brain."
"Makes sense,"
put in Griffin airily.
"Unorthodox, eh?"
muttered Reeve, with a sharp glance at Lafayette.
"Clever of you, I'm sure."
Eliza widened her eyes. "Are you ill, sir? Or was that a glimmer of grudging regard?" Reeve flicked away his cigar stub.
"Don't push me, missy. I can't scour the streets for an invisible thief."
"Can't you? And here I thought you were the expert."
"Sting me with your wit, will you?" He gave her a hurt look. "Last time I do you a favour."
Eliza stared, taken aback. Reeve was old-fashioned in more than his condescending attitude. He'd thrived on the old thief-taker's methods. Informers, tip-offs, bribes exchanged in dark corners, confessions beaten from yowling unfortunates. But epic mulishness made him dogged, not incompetent. And impressing the Home Office with a swift result was his idea of a good day's work. Reeve truly thought this petty theft an important case.
What if he'd honestly intended to help her? But Lizzie's rage made her shudder and sweat, and her mouth stung with sour need for the elixir. She wasn't inclined to show mercy. "Shall I do your job for you yet again?" "I suggest you put the hard work on your security guards and smoke out the burglar's accomplice. Otherwise, I believe only one invisible thief of note is at work in London, and that's Harry the Haunter." Reeve gaped like a half-skinned eel. "Harry the who?" "The mythical miscreant who stole the Balmoral diamond and robbed the Royal Exchange? Perhaps you'd have read of him in your divisional reports if you weren't too busy hobnobbing with the Commissioner to pay attention to real detective work." She stuffed her optical into its leather case and shouldered her bag. "I shall forward my account in due course. Good day, Chief Inspector." And in a satisfied swirl of skirts, she stalked out. Outside on Great Portland Street, acid bubbled in her throat, and her hair coiled like wound springs, yearning to change. She swallowed a scream. "It's not your turn, Lizzie. Stop it!" Hippocrates scurried after her, brassy feet clattering over the curb. Uncaring traffic hustled by, the din roaring in her ears. She inhaled deeply, then again. It didn't help. The foul air only wrung her throat dry with unbearable thirst. The crowd jostled her, a barrage of skirts and coat-tails and careless elbows. She fumbled for her little phial of remedy, a drug to relieve the symptoms of her darker dependency on Lizzie's elixir, and gulped a mouthful. Her eyes watered. The horrid, salty flavour made her gag. Gradually her squirming skin subsided, but still the craving for that warm, strangely bitter drink that set Lizzie free writhed, a ghost trapped in a bottle, swirling in ever-tightening knots until— "That went well." Effortlessly, Captain Lafayette matched her stride, dodging loping clockwork servants and costermongers, yelling about strawberries or salted fish. Curse him, but the man didn't give up easily. "Did someone speak? I'm afraid I heard only childish babbling." A sheepish glance. "Fair enough. I apologize. I lost my temper with him. Your hair looks stunning, by the way. Is that a new hat?" "Lost your temper? If I'm not mistaken, you grabbed for your sword to defend my honour. I rather think you've lost your mind." "Well, or is it that you imagine yourself some swashbuckling Georgian highwayman to duel at dawn for a lady's favour? Either way, I recommend a swift pistol shot as the better solution." He opened his mouth and shut it again. "Wise," she remarked, wedging past a flower seller who waved a basket of red chrysanthemums. "I'm glad we're agreed you're a romantic fool, Remy Lafayette." "I prefer foolish romantic, but point conceded. I'm sorry." "Apology noted." "And accepted?" "Your credit is limited, sir. Don't waste it all in one day." But uneasily she recalled that glint of wolfish eye. An impending full moon did strange things to those who changed. "I trust you're in good health," she added belatedly. "It being Friday quite soon." "Never better," he announced too readily. "Your concern touches my heart." "How quaint. From your daft behaviour I imagined it had touched your wits." "Ouch. Is it wrong that I've missed your tongue-lashings?" "No, but it's timely." She smiled sweetly. "I've been polishing my store of insults on the off chance you should show your irritating face." They reached Oxford Street, where electric omnibuses rattled among horses and clockwork carriages. Glowing purple coils crackled amidst the whir of cogs and the thundery smell of ether. Tall brass velocipedes weaved in and out on teetering wheels, their riders holding on to the handlebars for dear life. At length Lafayette chuckled. "Harry the Haunter, eh? Or did you invent that to annoy Reeve?" She waved at a one-legged paper seller whose headlines today yelled, "Empire prepares for war. Last chance for Paris emissaries and deportation squads raid enemy enclaves in West End, and radicals push for commons reform." Don't you read the broadsheets? Harry's responsible for every grand theft since the Crimean Gold, they say. In and out like a ghost, they say, seen...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?